Start officially right now. And I'm Kelly Coates Gilbert, and we are broadcasting. I am broadcasting live from Dallas, Texas tonight. And I have a wonderful guest to introduce to you tonight, someone that I met at a writers' conference in Florida, and we kind of hung out a bit. In fact, we've hung out a couple of years in a row. Her name is Ciara Knight. She's a good friend of mine. She writes books that I adore. And I think she's someone that you all are going to enjoy. She's a USA Today best-selling author. She writes primarily romance, but her new series is a wonderful romantic women's fiction series with beachy covers, the books that I adore. And she has a new one coming out next month. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But let me tell you just a little bit about Ciara. There is something that I read on her bio that I was very, very interested in, and I'm going to let her tell us just a little bit about it before we moved on to her books. You auditioned for a dance team at Walt Disney World?
I did.
Is that right? How did that come about? Tell us. That's unique.
So it came about because my parents wanted me to go to college and I didn't want to go when I first graduated high school. And I wanted to be a dancer. So I told my parents, I want to go audition for Disney World. And my parents were like, well, that'll get her to go to school. She'll never get in there. So they drove me all the way over to Disney and I auditioned for an entire day. And when I got a call back, my parents refused to drive me the second day. So I actually ended up getting right over and auditioning and I got the part. But it took 3 days and a whole lot of effort to get there. So
was it fun? I mean, that sounds like a blast and a lot of work.
It was a blast. It was a blast. I worked there for almost 2 years, did character work and what we call face characters and danced in parades and stuff. And if I wouldn't have broken my foot in 8 places, I probably wouldn't have returned to college. So I call it my blessing because I probably would still be trying to dance at my old age. But it was a lot of fun. I loved working with children. So
that was really fun to read about you because it was something I did not know, even though you and I have hung out together. One of the things that I normally do when I bring a guest on for She's Reading is I take a little peek at their reviews. And this is what some of the readers have said about Ciara's books. One says, a beautiful, special story. Brava. Another one said, this author does an amazing job in creating and developing stories I adore. Another one says, I would love to see this book made into a Hallmark movie. And then on this last series and the new one coming out that's up for pre-order right now, I saw this is a great series for summer. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the first question to you and ask you one of the questions I like to ask all our guest authors. And that is, tell us just a little bit about your writing journey and tell us why you write what you write.
Okay. I actually started off in young adult fiction, believe it or not. I did that. I actually hit #1 on Amazon and YA when I first started my career. And I loved it. I taught at schools. I have a special passion for cultivating young people into the writing world. When I was in school, back in the Bronze Age, as my son tells me, I was in a special needs classroom because I was diagnosed mentally challenged back in the day. It turns out years later, I found out I'm dyslexic, but I also had a speech impediment. So I spent a lot of my days in a trailer staring at a wall, looking at words flashing, and I wasn't in a normal classroom. And I think that's why I developed such a huge imagination. And it was natural for me to write YA when I first started. I didn't start writing until I had children. And it was when my husband came home one day and saw my face and knew that he had to figure something out for me or I was going to be out the door because I was going crazy. So he gave me a laptop.
Mamas can have days like that.
But I'd always talked about writing. So my husband gave me a laptop and said, shut up and write the darn book.
Oh, good for him.
And that one went under the bed. And then the next one was published to my absolute shock. And from YA, I ended up taking a class and they wanted me to work on characterization because I'm all about the world building and all of this. And at the end of the class, she says, I think you should publish this. Like, me, a small town romance? Nobody's going to want to read that. I don't have a voice for that. I sold 45,000 copies the first month that it released.
I love stories like that.
So when I started getting fan mail and people were really enjoying it, I just really fell in love with the genre. I love the aspects of it. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think that I was supposed to say why I write.
Why you write what you write.
Okay, so you'll find out in a lot of my books that I have special needs characters, which of course, I just want to bring light to a lot of situations in the world that people aren't aware of.
Yeah.
So they're usually secondary characters. I've had everything from a special dog to children with autism to everything. So that's kind of a common theme in all of my books.
Oh, that's cool.
I even have a funny ferret in one of mine. So he's a mischievous little guy. But I fell in love with women's fiction because I find as I'm growing more mature and my kids are leaving the nest and all of that, my choice even in reading has changed. And I found that there were not a lot of books out there for women that were later in life, seasoned romances. So I started really writing more and more of that genre because I felt like it was needed in the market. And so I found my little kind of niche, I guess, in the market doing that.
Well, that would answer why you sell like you do, because I mean, I looked at your rankings and stuff and I thought, whoa, girl. So your readers are loving what you're choosing to write. I can tell.
Well, I hope so. I think I get more joy when I get emails thanking me for something, or I really related to that character, or my best fan mail I ever received, this was actually YA, but she wrote me a fan mail that said, thank you for writing that character. I thought I was the only girl like that. And you made me want to continue living. And when I got that,
oh my gosh,
I knew I couldn't stop writing.
Yeah.
So, when you reach people like that, that's everything to an author.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many wonderful aspects to what we do, but when you get that special email from a reader, so readers, do not ever hesitate to reach out to an author. We love to hear from you. And when an author gets an email like what Ciara just quoted, it just made it all worthwhile, because this is a hard business. I mean, we sit every day. If you're doing this full time, like Ciara and I, we sit every day and we write. And so thank you for all those efforts and those emails and those reviews. We so appreciate them. What do you find the most challenging about this business?
I have to say that the most challenging thing I have is, well, me personally, is I have 3 editors for everything. So I take a typo in my books extremely seriously, and that deals with my dyslexia. I just want to make sure I give a lot of quality assurance to that. If I get I actually read all my reviews, and I take them and I will process them, and so that I can write better on the next book. I think the hardest thing for me to handle is any drama. I just want to write my books and reach people and enjoy it. And sometimes publishing and the actual process of publishing can be challenging because everything's changing all the time. And most writers, we just want to write our books.
Yeah.
That's all we care about.
Yeah.
We just want to reach people and make them feel good.
And we wear a lot of hats in this business. If you own a publishing business like Ciara and I mean, there are, we've talked about this on She's Reading before, but there are 2 main ways to publish. And one is under contract with a publisher, which I did for a long time. But then there's the independent method where you become the publisher and you hire your own editors and such. So that's what Ciara is talking about. And it's a arduous process, juggling all that has to be done. But the fact that you have 3 editors on every book, I'm like you, I don't cut corners. But still, errors do slip by sometimes, but don't you just cringe when someone reaches? But again, readers, never hesitate to reach out to an author to point out an error. We actually appreciate that too, because then we can correct it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I love it when I receive mail that is constructive criticism. Hey, I loved this story, but I would love to see a story like this. I love receiving that because, you would know it sparks your imagination. Oh, yes, I love that. I want to go and write that now.
Yeah. Yeah. And our readers, they're really good at, I mean, they read a lot. My readers read a lot, and the readers that are on She's Reading read a lot. And they, you know, it's so fun if you ask their opinion about a cover, or if you ask their opinion about a storyline, and they'll give feedback, and it's always spot on. I just really appreciate that. You know, you mentioned something that was interesting to me, and that is that you went to learn to write characters. It seems like every author has their very own process for writing characters. What's yours?
So it actually depends on the story, because some of my books start with one character and I build the story around them, and others I have a story idea and I build the characters around the story. So it kind of depends on where it comes from. I think that a lot of my characters, I have to stretch for some of the more outgoing characters, since like most authors, I'm kind of an introvert. So I have a lot of fun writing those characters. So when one of those come to my mind, that just sparks everything. So I love writing really outgoing, intelligent, charismatic, like, you know, that type, that A type, you know, that everybody wants to be around. I love to write those, but then I love to twist them. So they might be well liked, but they got a secret, or they're not really who you think they are, or something like that. But it honestly depends on what genre I'm writing and what story I'm telling. When I did Summer Island Book Club, the first book of the Friendship Beach series, I knew I wanted to write a heroine who lost her husband.
Oh, sorry.
And okay, well, now we're recording again. I knew I wanted to write a character that lost her husband and got a second chance at love, because I had a friend whose husband passed away 8 years ago, and I wrote a story for her. And I find that whenever I write a story for somebody, that's the one that resonates with my readers the best.
Sure. I read one of your novels, because I always try to read one, at least one, and I've read a couple, but I read this one in your new beach series, and you do have a way of writing really heartfelt plots and themes. Is that intentional on your part? I mean, it kind of sounds like it is, but is that intentional? Or does it just flow naturally?
It kind of comes out that way. I've tried to write some romantic comedies and things like that, and I have improved some of my humor aspects in my books, but I'm not a romantic comedy kind of writer. I like to make people feel, I want all the feels. I want people to put down a book and be like, oh, like it carries with you for a while, you know, those kind of books. That's what I like to write. I want to have something that, you know, you pay for a book, I want it to last for a while after you're done reading it.
Oh, that's a good way to phrase it, because that's exactly how I feel. And the other question I like to ask my authors that are on here is whether they're a pantser or a plotter. Now, if some of you have been here a while, you know what I mean when I say that. But if you're new to She's Reading, a pantser is someone who is also could be called a discovery writer. They don't really plan the book ahead. They've got usually a framework. They know where they're heading. They've got some loose boundaries, but a plotter actually sits down and scene by scene by scene plans out the novel before they even sit down to write it. Which are you?
Both. So I have to explain that. If I'm writing a single title or like the first book in a series, I like to just let it flow. And I do what I want to do. World building, sometimes I love to just be really creative. If I'm writing a series, which most of my books end up being a series, when I start going forward and I know I want something to happen at the end, I do need to take that into consideration. So I tend to plot. The other time I plot is when I'm on a really tight deadline, because a lot of times when I pants, I have to rewrite parts of the book when I'm done. So I don't have time for that. And then when I actually have sold on proposals, because I'm hybrid, so that means I publish from traditional and indie, which of course you know that I'm just sharing. But So like I just did a proposal for like a Harlequin Love Inspired. So I have to plot all that out because you
Sure.
only submit a chapter or two and the synopsis. I hate doing that, to be honest, because then I feel like I have to stay exactly in the lines, and I'm a color all over the paper kind of girl. So
Me too. Me too. I'm a discovery writer because I love to come in here with my cup of coffee in the morning, and I know kind of where I'm heading, but really I discover the story as I'm writing it. So it almost feels like I'm reading every day, and I adore that. I adore
that
that.
is a great way to put it. That is my favorite way to write.
Yeah, me too. But you have to, I mean, you can't just sit down and just go wherever, or you just be chasing, rabbits everywhere. But that is a nice way for me to write. And I know that, I've got some author friends who are very strict. They do not stray from their outline. And it's because they planned all the arcs and the character twists and turns and the different plot points and everything. And we do the same thing. We just do it kind of looking behind us. A little bit. So, but it all has the same outcome. Let's talk a little bit about your series. I want you to tell our readers, you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 4 main series and then some other stuff. Let's talk about that. We talked a little bit about Friendship Beach, but tell me just the general, 1 or 2 liner about that series so that our readers would know what that's about.
So I invented a small town in Florida that I actually would spend summers at with my grandparents. So it's based on Merritt Island, Florida, but it's Summer Island. Mm-hmm. And this story is all about new beginnings, second chances and new beginnings, finding your happily ever after. So it's very much second chances. And it's about 4 women who are called the Friendsters. They've been lifelong friends, and they all come back to the island together after, in the first book, she is celebrating her 50th birthday.
Oh,
and she's lost her husband a few years ago. So it's her daughter thinks she's being nice, but she hasn't seen her friends in years. And they're all like Broadway actresses and attorneys and all of this. And she's been a stay-at-home mom because she had a baby fresh out of high school. And so she feels all like, oh my goodness. So it's all a journey about these women coming back together and helping her heal and move on. And then the next story goes after the next friend and the next friend.
Oh, see, those are my personal reading favorites, are when you get a group of women, whether they're sisters or mother and daughters or friends like that, those are my stories. I love them. Tell us about Sugar Maple, because that I saw had like 8 novels in it.
Sugar Maple. Okay, so there's actually some historical and some modern ones, because what happens is it goes back to the 1940s when the town had kind of just sprung up, and the town elders in the normal series, people wanted to know their stories. So I went back and wrote 2 Christmas books about the town elders, and my readers ate it up, and they're asking for a third. I'm kind of like, which one do I do? So I did complete the regular series, Sugar Maple, and that's about a whole group of friends who, believe it or not, came back to town, but they're younger, and it's all about saving the town. So they all have to group together to save the town. It's financially in ruin, and so they're trying to bring business back. So they actually end up helping an internet sensation do a show in their town, and of course the town elders hate this idea and they're all against it, and you've got the funny, quirky elderly that my readers fell in love with, and then you have the young women falling in love, and so it's kind of a multi-generational series.
Sounds a little like Gilmore Girls.
Yeah,
my all-time favorite.
Oh, I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan too.
Yeah. What about Sweetwater County?
So that was the one that I started with. That was the one, Winter in Sweetwater County was the book that I wrote in the class that I put up. And it's funny as an author, Kelly, you've probably done this too, or maybe you haven't, because I've read your books and they're so brilliant. I've never thought this about your stories, but because it was my first one, I go back and I look and it's like, really, people like that story? Like, I want to rewrite it. Like, I feel like I'm so much better now. I want to go back and rewrite it. Yeah. And my agent said, don't. She goes, it has sold. It's going to continue selling. Nobody cares if you used an adjective instead of an active verb back then. Readers don't care.
Yeah.
So, but yes, that's a 12-book series. Right
That's
now,
what
my
I
agent
saw.
is shopping that with some sub rights for TV movie. We'll see what happens with that. That's
Oh,
always a long game.
yeah.
And but there's been some interest about that. So that series is, so a lot of my books have faith in them. I don't write Christian romance or Christian women's fiction, but there's a faith element in them.
I do too.
And some of my early works, I was scared of it because I went from Christian fiction to this and I thought I had to keep it separate. So I feel like the first few books in that series is very secular, clean. And then as you move on with this series, you start seeing how I grew and what I figured out my niche is, and you have a little bit more faith in it. But like there's one book, Faith in Sweetwater County, that Pastor Klein comes to town and they find out he was a former underwear model. So, I do have some humor in there. So he can't live that down. So.
Good one. You say you don't write funny, but that's pretty funny.
I have humor hits that are like, my readers say, I wasn't expecting that. And I laughed out loud because they're just these heavy hits on occasion.
That's funny. Well, what about, okay, the last one I see is the Riverbend series.
Yes. Riverbend is 4 books and a novella. It actually won a Maggie Award, the final book. It dealt with domestic violence, which is a very heavy subject, but it dealt with a cartel and all of this other stuff. And I call it my Scooby-Doo mystery because I don't write mystery, but like we talked about before, you have a story and it just pours out of you and it just ends up what it is. And so on that final book of that series, it actually won awards and I'm very proud of it. What's funny is it seems like my award-winning books are not my bestsellers. My bestsellers are not my award-winning books. So it's funny how readers and judges and all of that, how you kind of have to, and I don't care. I'm not going after, awards. I just want to satisfy my readers. So I've tried to really kind of ignore that now, but I was really proud of it because I think that it brought light to some of the fan mail, like we talked about earlier. I did receive some. I won't go into specifics because these are women who are in uncomfortable situations. And, they'd say, it gave me hope. It made me believe I could get out. And that to me made that entire series worth it.
Sure.
So when you ask if I write heavy, yeah, I do, with humor hits.
yeah, because that's what I love about romantic women's fiction. You'll have your romance lines, and they'll be funny, they'll be light, but they'll also hit on some women's issues, adultery, divorce, raising kids that go awry, different, plot lines will come in and out of our books, and we get to explore some of those things. And face it, I mean, you're younger than I am, but face it, when you've raised a family and you've been married a number of years, you've learned some things and you have some things you got to say, and you get to say them through those characters. And, you said that you like to write characters that are very different than you. The same is true for me. I love to play pretend. When I was a little girl with my sister, we used to pretend all the time. And, this is my adult pretending now. I just go shut my office door and go be somebody else for the day, which is fun.
I wish I could recall which book it was that I read of yours, but I actually saw you in one of the characters. But maybe it's because all your characters are so lifelike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I can't recall which one it was right now. Cause I read like 2 or 3 after I met you the first time at NINC, and then like a couple the second time. And then, so it's like, I get them confused now.
Well, and like you, your writing kind of evolves over time. And part of it is I started kind of writing to market a lot more. I just wrote what I wrote. And then I realized that there was some skill in writing to what readers really want to buy for certain genres. And so, you learn to temper your stories a little bit and to fit into whatever genre market you're going to do. And, so your writing changes a little bit. But in those early years, I just wrote whatever I wanted to.
Didn't we all?
Thank goodness my traditional publisher allowed that. What do you do for fun? Your mom, you're a wife. What else do you do for fun?
I am. I work a lot. I'm actually
And it's
closet.
fun.
I'm actually kind of a closet adrenaline junkie. I love like skydiving and travel and all of that. I do knit. I enjoy that. And mostly I'm just all about my family right now because my middle one's leaving for college. And we play cards almost every night. And he's just such a sweet boy. I just can't imagine him leaving home.
I know.
It really is.
I remember there were several years where the month of May just did me under. So,
Yeah. But of course, reading's a big one. And I got away from that when I started writing. I have to ask you, did you ever do this? When I was writing in a certain genre, I wouldn't read anything in that genre because I was so scared, like something would end up in my head and I'd put it in my book, not intentionally. So like I stopped reading for a long time. And now all of a sudden I've come back and I've been like, how could I have stayed away from this for so long?
yeah. I'm not very much of an eclectic reader. I have friends who read all over the place. I'll read fantasy and paranormal and romance and psychological thrillers. I am a true blue women's fiction girl, and I like romance, but I like romance that is really heavily laced with women's fiction issues. And that's what I've always read, and it's what I love. I just discovered Colleen Hoover after I saw the hubbub, and I'm really enjoying her stories. And her one book that I picked up is in first person present, which is such an unusual thing to do. And I did that with my very first book, not knowing that it was unusual, but I'm really liking it.
Do you? I have a hard time with first person present tense reading it. So I'm gonna have to try that because
it has to be done well. And
it
does. Yeah, Colleen does. So what's on the horizon? You've got Summer Island Hope coming out. Tell the readers the date.
May 7th, I think. It's the second Tuesday in May.
May 10th.
May 10th. It's coming out May 10th. And then Summer Island Romance will be coming out in June, and that completes the 4 friends. There's also a novella that's exclusive through Prolific Works that ties into the series called Summer Island Second Chances, and it's the story of the daughter.
Oh, nice.
So that's a lot of fun. It's free. And then after that, I've been trying to, unlike you who got your start in women's fiction, I actually wanted to write women's fiction from the beginning. And if you followed my career, you'll see it tiptoe towards women's fiction. And this new series was the closest I've gotten. And the next one's going to be
even stronger.
Women's fiction. Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It kind of like Pamela Kelly's Nantucket Inn. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
Where it's a multi-generational with a hint of romance, but it is women's fiction.
Yeah. I'm writing a family drama right now, and it's, has all kinds of age groups and such. I'm having a ball with it. So I think you'll love it.
Good. Well, I'm excited.
It's fun for your readers.
I think
so. That's on the horizon for in the fall then? Is that, or when does that start coming out, or do you know?
I hope so. My thing is I have a huge following for Christmas books. And so like Christmas Bells and Creekside, which is a spinoff of the Sweetwater County series. It's basically the retelling of Rudolph meets Jesus. So, and it's about a little boy who is going blind. And it's a very touching story. So the Christmas bells are a symbol. So I've got 3 more symbols to write for it. And I get a lot of fan mail for that. So if I can get that done, then I'm going to start on the women's fiction book. So, and I have a few projects.
So you ladies out there who love your Christmas books, Ciara has Christmas books, and you can tell, they're really heartfelt. Tell our readers how they connect with you. Tell them your website address. Are you on BookBub, Goodreads, all that?
I'm everywhere. So my website is Ciara, Ciara, Knight, Knight.com. And you can fill out a form there. It goes direct to my email, not an assistant. I answer every single reader email I get. It does not ever go to an assistant. I'm on BookBub. I am on Goodreads. I am on Instagram. I am on TikTok. I am on Facebook. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? Pinterest.
I'm assuming that on your website, there is buttons and clicks to go to all those places. So if people wanted to connect with you on TikTok, they could go to your website and click off onto TikTok.
Everyone but TikTok. I don't have TikTok up there yet. I
All
forgot
right, well,
to
then
do
tell
that.
them
So
your
thanks for
TikTok.
reminding me.
Tell them your TikTok handle then.
It's author Ciara Knight.
Oh, good. Okay.
And
So
she
that's easy.
pulls up her phone to look and see what it is.
All right. Well, we've been on just about a half an hour, and this is the point where usually I do my rapid fire questions. And that is just, I'm going to ask you this or that, and without much thought, you just answer.
Okay, we'll see if my brain will work.
Okay. Okay. And they're easy. Chocolate or vanilla?
Dark chocolate.
I like dark chocolate too.
I don't like milk chocolate, so I have to specify dark chocolate.
Pie or cake?
Ooh, cake.
Okay. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Stilettos or flip-flops?
At my age, flip-flops.
Dawn or sunset?
Oh, dawn.
Swimming or walking?
Swimming.
Beach or mountains?
Oh, that's not fair. I'm gonna go with beach. I have to go with beach.
Cook or takeout?
Takeout.
Campground or resort?
Campground.
And the last one is flowers or a massage?
Oh, massage. that was the easiest one.
You know, I love to do those rapid fire because as much, you know, I may know an author really, really well when I bring them on, but I always learn new things when I do the rocket fire questions. And so we've pretty much come to a conclusion tonight on the interview portion of our time with Ciara, but she's going to offer a giveaway. So I'll let her tell you a bit about that. And then the way you're going to enter, you know, we don't see your comments when we're live streaming through Zoom, but when we get done here, we're going to go into the Facebook group and we will see all your comments, and Ciara will answer all your questions. So if you have questions at all, just post them in there and Ciara will you know, chat back and forth with you. She'll answer your questions. I'll go in there and answer as well. And so anyone who comments is automatically entered in her giveaway. And then she's going to post in the morning around 9 o'clock Central or so mid-morning, the winner. So you'll have to come back tomorrow to see who the winner is. So go ahead and tell us about your giveaway.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna do 3. I'm gonna do 2 ebooks and a beach blanket, because, you know, I had to do a beach blanket, but this isn't just any beach blanket. This is a beach blanket that is awesome because it repels sand. So
Oh, way cool. Just in time for summer.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to give away a copy of the first book in the Friendship Beach series. So I'll give away a copy of Summer Island Book Club. And then for anybody who loves historical romance, I'm going to give away the second book, because the first book is free right now. Love on the Prairie is free right now on Amazon and all online retailers. So if you want to go,
everybody go download it.
So I'll give away the second book, Love in the Rockies. So if you want a historical one, just comment historical, and then I'll know that you're interested in that. And then the beach blanket.
Great. Well, that's fun and very generous. So, okay, you got that. So she's going to be giving away a beach blanket that repels sand. And she's going to be giving away a copy of the first book. Is that right? In her Friendship Beach series. And then she's going to satisfy you historical lovers as well. So comment away, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, and Ciara will be over there to answer all your questions. So thank you for coming tonight, Ciara. It was really, I'm so glad we finally got this done. We had tried to put this together for a long time. But
thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Welcome. It was fun. And I don't know what happened with Zoom, and all of a sudden that voice coming on that it was recording. I thought it was recording before. So Zoom always kind of kicks me in the rear end. I don't know what's going on, but I actually think my Zoom app is haunted.
Well, I'm just glad I kept my internet.
Oh yeah. Ciara was having internet problems and freezing up. So at least, we were able to make it through the interview. All right. Good night, everyone. And thank you for attending. And be watching because we're going to have a couple of more. We've got a couple more on tap. We don't have actual dates yet, but be watching because we're going to be doing a lot of these over the next weeks. So thanks for being here. Take care. Good night.